Okay, that concludes our poets, and we're going to have we've been told, unfortunately, we don't have the entire time that we were given because there were some mistakes made in double booking, but I'm going to have Liz Roberts, who's going to come up from the War Resistors League, and she's going to talk a little bit about the work that we do. And I think that I just joined War Resistors League in end of February as the national organizing coordinator, and I'm developing campaigns, counter recruitment campaigns, counter military recruitment campaigns in New York City, and I've been doing a lot of work within sort of before even 9/11 in immigrant communities and South Asian communities. And linking South Asian immigrant communities to communities of color. I was doing work around police violence, and then of course 9/11 happened, and the work that we were doing sort of made even more sense and very critically needed. And so now joining the War Resistors League, I've been thinking a lot about like how do we as a Muslim community or Muslim American communities link with the anti-war movement and progressive and people of color communities and particularly in my counter recruitment campaign, this is something that I'll put out to all of you, is that what role can we play in terms of really stopping this war and this machine. And so I think Liz Roberts is going to come up and talk about the work that we do.
We are very lucky to have Sarah Hussain on staff, and this is an amazing event, and I'm just enjoying so much the incredible contributions everyone's made, just very powerful work. So the War Resistors League is an 84-year-old nonviolence organization, and we've created materials and trainings and campaigns and organized basically focusing on ending war and the causes of war. Patriarchy, white supremacy, capitalism. And we've got chapters all around the country and affiliates. We were founded in 1923 by pacifists and conscientious objectors of the First World War. And then there was a great influx during the Second World War of conscientious objectors and people supporting those resistors, several who went to jail. And then through the 50s, during the Cold War, people were organizing within the War Resistors League around civil defense drills and nuclear arms and refusing to feed the paranoia and the hysteria and taking actions, doing civil disobedience. And then during the 60s, during the Vietnam era, the WRL played a pretty pivotal role in building coalitions and campaigns and training folks in resistance around ending that war. And then through the 80s, did a lot of work around disarmament and focusing on anti-nuke stuff generally. We have a philosophy of revolutionary nonviolence, and we have participated in and encouraged and trained people around doing acts of civil disobedience and nonviolent direct action in order to try to grind to a halt the war machine. Our programs right now have been focusing, like Sarah said, on counter-recruitment, training young people to get the military out of their schools. We've been focusing on GI resistance, which we have historically done, and we are doing right now, working with Iraq veterans and Afghanistan veterans against the war. Right now, we just completed a process called the listening process, just taking a full reading of groups and activists, a diverse group throughout the country, to figure out how to build a more strategic and effective anti-war movement. And we're actually coming out with a report shortly that we're really excited about. And we've participated in and helped to start a network around war profiteers and sort of educating around the ways in which capitalism necessitates violence, militarism, and war, and trying to sort of change people's understanding and thinking about how war happens. And because 50% or more than 50% of every income tax dollar that comes in pays for the military. We have historically encouraged people and shown them how to do war tax resistance as a way of defunding militarism. And so, again, we've produced materials around that. And we've always had a really strong feminism anti-task force, feminism task force and sort of anti-patriarchy, orientation to our work and connecting violence and sexism and looking at how women are treated in the military, looking at how war affects women globally. And we've produced materials like What Every Girl Should Know and Battered by the Pentagon, which are resources specifically for women, thinking about the military and letting them know how, in fact, their lives will be affected by participating in the U.S. military. And we also produce WIN Magazine quarterly. We have a peace calendar that we do every year. We do a peace award event each year. And we just continue to try to stoke grassroots movements around the country doing anti-war movement to not just end this war and this occupation, but to really think, about how we can build an alternative culture of making war so obsolete and a thing of the past. It's a long journey. We invite you all to participate in our work, and thank you.
Okay. And I thought, I asked Liz to come in and speak at this time, and I wanted her to speak before Amitis' work because there's a lot of, again, it's just like sort of breaking this heavy stereotype of what women and being Muslim in this country is about, and also what the issues are, right? I mean, a lot of the times it's assumed that Muslim women's issues are just around the veil and the body and patriarchy and so forth. But we're, as some of the works that was read here points to, is that no, we are, issues around environmental politics, around, education, healthcare, and economic rights, socioeconomic, cultural rights. They're part of what we're thinking about, right, as Muslim women. So I'm going to introduce Amitis Motevalli, who was born in Tehran, Iran, and moved to the U.S. in 1977. In 1995, she received a BA from San Francisco State University in art with a minor in women's studies, and in 1998, an MFA from Claremont Graduate University. Her work as an artist incorporates a combination of Near Eastern aesthetics with a Western art education. Motevalli states, being an immigrant in the U.S. shows in my work a duality of culture, both natural and learned. In all of my work, I create a dialogue that critiques dominant views of oppressed people and culture in general. Her work in art education is with youth who share similar duality in vision. Motevalli has been active in creating social change with her students on issues of civil rights within the class through pedagogy, or working with students and community to organize around issues that affect their quality of life and access to education. She currently lives and works in Los Angeles, exhibiting art and organizing to create an active and resistant cultural discourse through information exchange, either in art, pedagogy, or organizing artists and educators.
I guess I'll move this here. I'm going to start off with a video, and this first video is actually from a performance I did. This is a documentary of pieces that were made influenced by Yoko Ono's cut piece, if any of you guys are familiar with that piece. So start off with this, hopefully. No audio. How sad. Audio. So many people would prefer this. Happen inside and encourage people to engage. Still no audio. Me as I'm performing, and give them readings, offer readings if they would like it, and even offer discussion about the readings if they would like. As people come in, I'm going to be writing on a long piece of paper, white paper, that's kind of scrollish. And I'm going to be writing about how I learned English, how I learned language, but mostly how I had to adjust to English. And while I'm writing, people are invited to come and write on me. I'm not going to resist them. I'm going to allow them to write, even if that stops me from my process of telling my story. But in a sense, when you really thought about it, and when it resonated in your mind, you really... A lot of time, and I can talk forever. I'll keep you here till tomorrow. So I'll show you another video, and then maybe, briefly talk about some pieces. And so now I've been commissioned to do a couple of different pieces throughout LA, and I also live in neighborhoods where I see shrines come up all the time because people will get killed on the street to different forms of violence. So I'm focusing on shrines right now. This is one form of shrine that that I see often is people putting messages, putting names and everything else up with styrofoam cups, and then let me see. I'm just going to show you a couple of quick examples. Title of this piece is Enfajar. This piece is influenced by the artist Ed Ruscha. His piece has Hollywood up there, and I recreated this piece, and instead of the Hollywood sign, I put up a different sign. It says Enfajar, which means implosion. And then this is from, I have an alter ego that I perform under. So this is from, whoops, go back to that one. This is an AK Ami piece, and it's a shirt that says support insurgency, and on the back it has some statements, a quote from Fanon. As you can tell, I kind of like Fanon. And some other statements about basically people's right to be able to defend themselves when they're under attack. And then I have the Intifada LA shirt, which was inspired by New York City's Khalil Gibran School Academy. So we recreated this shirt in LA, and a lot of educators were kind of running around wearing it. And then I want to see if I have pictures of my last performance, which I do. And then we'll be done. This is the last performance. So the last performance that I did was called Esm, and it's about all of the names that I've been given throughout my life. And as you can see, I have all these different name tags. So I work through all these names with an audience during the Asian American Film Festival on a tour bus. It was like a video tour bus. And I hijacked the plane in my pink jumpsuit. And there it is. And that's about it.
Sorry, I'm sort of rushing this. we don't have much time, and I wanted to. Yeah, we don't have much time left, and there are two more visual artists whose work that whose work has graced the entire program today, and I'm very, very thankful to both Amina and Samira. I'm going to. It's up to Samira's Abbasi's work, which was later half of the program, mostly in the color. Samira Abbasi was born in Ahwaz, Iran, in 1965, and is an Arabic Iranian. In 1967, her family moved to Britain, where she was educated and studied painting, first at Birmingham Polytechnic and then at Canterbury College of Art. Abbasi's career was centered in London for most of the 1980s and 1990s. She established a successful gallery career, showing with Mercury Gallery in Cork Street, the Royal Academy, where she won a painting award in 1997. Her work was acquired by the British Government Art Collection in 2002. She is represented in the UK by England & Co. Gallery. In 1998, she moved to New York, where she helped to set up the Elizabeth Foundation for the Art Studio Center, where she currently has a studio. In 2006, she was awarded a Yadu Fellowship, and then in 2007, a NIFA. Solo and group shows in New York include the Scoto Gallery, Vernacular Press, Kim Foster, and Kathleen Cullen Galleries, the Islip Museum, the Queen's Museum, and Dowling College. Her solo shows have been reviewed by the New York Times and Newsday. Samira, I know we said that we were going to give over at 3:15, but I don't, I don't like to do injustice to visual art. I feel like it's always just gracing or there, and visual artists are not able to sort of come up and speak to their work, and I really do apologize that I'm sort of rushing, but please do come up and share some of it.
The time's short, so I'm just going to cover two, and hopefully that will cover, my subject matter in general. Let's start off with Exiled Garden. Okay. So this is a painting. It's about 16 inches across, so this looks enormous, and if it were this big, that would be fantastic too. But anyway, oil on panel, and my subject matter, this is called Exiled Garden, and I deal with exile, immigration, and matters around that. I mean, having moved, I've emigrated twice in my life, so it is, this is a biographical sort of fact of my life, so it does come into the work. And they are, my figures are sort of mythological, and there's a sense in this one of a replanting of oneself. The main figure behind me, which is more like a tree, there's a sense of having moved and implanted. And the birds contain eggs, these two that are left behind on one side. One of them contains eggs, the other one contains a fetus, and then the one in flight also contains a fetus. So this idea of bringing and replanting. They are, poetic, mythological, and hopefully not too matter of fact. Okay, the next one I'd like to talk to, Lamentation. Okay. This is around the same scale, 16 inches, oil on panel, and for years I've been looking at early Renaissance medieval paintings, and this one was an attempt at remaking a Giotto painting. The Mary's at the base of a crucifixion. I mean, we all know those paintings where the women are lamenting the dead, and in this case the dead are a pile of skulls that look alive. They are witnesses to their own death. If you take out the car bomb, it looks like a traditional early Christian icon of that era. But I wanted to make it, have it multi-layered, that it was contemporary, because this looks like current Iraq. It happens to be what women wear. The group of women were all in black, and at one point I decided one of them had to have the blue of the Virgin Mary, and that made the connection even stronger. And at one point, behind the sandstorm, there's a group of men in white, which I went over. What else? Yeah. So another one I could talk about is okay. The more recent work is large-scale charcoal drawings, and the narrative is moving into the body. Events that make up one's life, in the end, make up oneself. You absorb the events of your life. I mean, this is what I've heard in your poetry, very touchingly, and we become the events that happen to us. And this series, there's a series of 12 of them, and they're called Chemical Hysterical, after Radiohead, I think. And the process is a bit like the Exquisite Corpse, where you have the leg is one thing, the thigh is another, and so there's this layering, just like, you know, how, I don't know, the seismic, how the earth layers itself in different crusts, and the events build up. Her sleeve, for example, is on fire, and that was a fragment from Dante's Inferno, where a figure is walking into hell, but her head is misplaced, so she can't see what she's walking into. We've all had that, I'm sure. And her plaits, hair plays a huge part in my imagery, and the plaits in this case are about time itself, how long it takes to grow hair. It's also my grandmother, because she had very long plaits, you know, buried underneath her layers of black. And the plaits wind around the boots, you know, and it's how we trip ourselves up with our own past and our own mistakes. And the birds I can't explain, they're always in my work. They're almost like, you know, psychic presences, helpers, guides. And the many heads which come up time and time again in these series of drawings are about the many voices in one's head and the many selves that make up the self. Okay. That's it.
And okay, I'm sorry, I'm like rushing. The other visual artist whose work was being shown in the beginning is Amina Ahmed, who received her MA at Royal College of Art in 1991. She specialized in visual Islamic and traditional arts and was awarded the Barakat Trust Prize. She attended the Chelsea School of Art Foundation, Derbyshire University, studying art and design with distinction. Achieved a BA honors at the Winchester School of Art, advanced entrant. Her works are in private collection exhibits in London and the USA. The artworks presented here are from a series, Archetypes, Roots, Weeds, and Trees, Listening. The weeds displaced are most of the time are unwanted. They find themselves in the cracks of society growing, at times a menace, but at a closer look, they have the power to heal. When we listen, their voice is ancient, rooted. The drawings are whatever one wants them to be, roots, weeds, or a woman tangled in her unwanted hair. My work, quote, she says, my work is based on the principles of what is termed sacred geometry, a universal language that permeates all living things. The language of symbols and archetype is a form of expressing that which does not only belong to me, the circle, square, and triangle, the elements, organic, biomorphic forms, trees, weeds, and roots are continual themes in her work.
Assalamu alaikum. Thanks, Sarah. This has been an absolutely wonderful event. Thank you for this opportunity. Your poetry was amazing, all of you. How did this journey begin for me with art? My teacher taught me that art means to be. Thou art. It was so simple, and yet I didn't even realize throughout my Western art school education, I didn't realize that it meant to be. And that understanding and etymology reminded me of something else, the word to remember, dhikr, and my own religion. And when someone asks me what religion you are, now I tend to say my religion is mine and yours is yours, which is something that, you know, we're taught as we're growing up, even within Islam, but we tend to forget in this world of forgetting.
I started looking at weeds, roots, and trees, and drawing the sounds that they make. In a sense, because I love music, but I'm not a composer. So I started drawing the sounds that they make. I think the images are there. You can go. This is actually a root, and it's about this size. And holding it and listening to the sounds in between, it starts revealing itself in a way of remembrance again and again. In every form that we look at things, it's a way to remember the way of Dhikr again and again. Listening is something that is very, very important to me, but it's hard to express in a visual form. With words we can do it, because we tend to speak. But with these drawings, I think it's a little bit more difficult. So I had to really focus my whole body and my whole mind, and the only way I could do it was to remain in a kind of constant prayer. So then began also the series of trees, which are the 99 names. And I think there's, if you go back, you'll see these are weeds again. This is a root. This is also a root. Another root. These are all roots again. The sacred geometry again. The underlying basis of all the work is also geometry. If you just go back to one of the trees. Yeah. That's all right. Anyway, the geometry plays a very, very important part in my work. Although it seems like where does it all come from? The geometry and the trees and the roots and the weeds. It is the basis of all living art, and it's a form again of remembrance, of constant remembrance, whether it's in our body, whether it's outside. It's an extension, a continual way of remembering. Is it good? Yeah.
Okay, I'm really sorry to both of you for being so rushed, but we must end this. And as all of you know, that there's just so much work that we want to share, and we need to create more spaces like this. So thank you everyone for coming and being here for such a long time. And I usually don't, have events without a Q&A because I think that it's really important to have an interaction between the audience and the presenters and the artists and so forth. But this time, unfortunately, we did start late and we're way over time. So yes, you can find us on our various websites, and we will be doing more events because there is a lot of work to be done around these issues. So thank you so much.
Just 1 second. On behalf of all the women in the Writing Violence, Living Violence workshop, just like to express our very deep appreciation for the space Sarah has created for us. She has been an endless source of energy, creativity, and love, and her work and activism is an inspiration for all of us. So this is a very, we look better this way. This is a small token. Okay.